Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stage Debate with Cossack Isaac. I'm very excited for today. We have some fabulous guests on. Greg Friedman from Peachtree, Ravi Patel from Hawkeye, and Paul Coury from Coury Hospitality. Super, super exciting. Huge dynamic folks in the space. And it's going to be a great conversation. I'm very excited for our audience, our listeners. This all would not be possible without our tremendous sponsors. First and foremost, to our corporate sponsor, Michael Stern of Line Star Tax and LST Consultants, tax geniuses, folks that have serviced many of my clients. And they're not just tax guys. These guys really will get into every single little intricacy and really tax plan and strategize with you. And reach out to them on LinkedIn, reach out to me, and I'll make the connection. Definitely folks you should speak to. Our series sponsor, Himesh Jaram of Emory Tech Distributions. These guys are awesome, honest folks, very competitive rates for LG TVs for your hotels. And then they've worked with some of the biggest guys in the space. They deliver very quickly, efficiently, and definitely folks you should reach out to on LinkedIn or reach out to me and I'll make the connection. And last but not least, our episode sponsor, and I'm very honored to have ARC as a partner, Azim and crew and Billy, and these guys are just really phenomenal guys in the space. They own their own stuff, and that's really what gives them the inside look, the inside scoop about really doing management the right way. And they've made rapid headway in the hotel management space, managing close to 100 hotels, and they really bring that family touch. It's not just some big corporation. These are guys that are accessible. These are guys that actually go ahead and do a tremendous job. And go on to the next slide just to see a little bit about ARC. And tune in, folks, because this is going to be very exciting. Thank you.
I get to work with an amazing team that's best in class.
The wonderful people, watching our team members grow, develop, oversee additional hotels, continue to evolve in their career. It's inspiring for me.
It's the people I work with.
Relationships with each other.
It's all about the people. It's about the people we work with, the people we have relationships with, not always internally, but also externally as well.
It's all about people and relationships.
I would say coaching, training, being a part of the team.
Helping people. That's something I've loved to do for a long time.
I have a phenomenal accounting team. I love working with those individuals each day, and they motivate me to do my best.
I can make a difference to the hotels, to our team members, to the owners.
I would place a wager on there's a lot of people who said that it's our people. Just knowing, especially now that I get to come to work amongst folks who are so passionate about what it is that we are doing, and it just happens to be in the hospitality industry, but their energy, who they are, they're fun, they're worth spending time with, learning beside them. That definitely gets me pumped up to get out and get the day started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stage Debate with Cossack Isaac. Today we have three huge guys on, guys who made a tremendous imprint in the hospitality space. We have Paul Coury from Coury Hospitality. Thank you so much for coming on. We have Ravi Patel from Hawkeye, love that name, and Greg Friedman from the Peachtree Group. Obviously, very well-known guys in the space. They've done tremendous things. It's an honor to have you guys on, hear about your journey, what you're doing for the next gen, helping them out, which I've heard so much about. Very excited. Thank you so much. So with that, we'll start with Paul. Paul, thank you for coming on today. Can you give us a little bit of a background about yourself, about your company, and what you guys specialize in?
Sure, glad to do it. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody. Talking to you from the wonderful state of Texas and Dallas. Next year, we'll be celebrating 40 years of our company being in existence, and so it's kind of an exciting time. Of that, I've been doing hotels for about 25 of those years, more as a direct approach, and then we jumped into it full time in the early to mid 2000s. We wear many hats. We're developers. We invest. We have an operating management company as well. We're involved in design and procurement and consulting. And I would say the thing about us, our claim to fame right now is we like to consider ourselves really best in class in the boutique lifestyle world. And we play heavily in that segment. We have 35 hotels that we're operating now. And of those, about 22 of those fall into the boutique and lifestyle category.
Very cool. And I've seen so much of your stuff on LinkedIn. It's really, really cool ideas of what you guys have done. Obviously, totally not traditional. Very, very cool space. Thank you. Greg from the Peachtree Group, I'm honored to work with you guys. You guys are just really huge guys in the space. Obviously, you have a few different arms today, really branching outside of hospitality as well to the multifamily and other asset classes. And you guys have done tremendous amount of debt brokerage and bring your twist and unique value to the space. And obviously, hotel ownership and management. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you began, and a little bit about the Peachtree Group.
Yeah. So, I went to school, University of Texas at Austin. When I graduated from Texas, I went into banking for about 10 years where I specialized in financing, capitalizing hotel projects, financed over 300 hotel projects, and then help start Peachtree in 2007. So we've been around for the last 18 years. And Peachtree's always been, very big investing across the equity side as well as the credit side in hotel assets as well as commercial real estate assets. We're a private equity firm, so we invest even outside of commercial real estate, but the majority of our assets under management are within commercial real estate. We have currently call it roughly about $4.5 billion of capital under management across about $8 billion of total asset value, and we're vertically integrated. So we own different platforms that are set up to go out and acquire real estate assets, commercial real estate assets, to develop assets, to lend. So we do a lot of lending. We have a couple of different lending platforms that does direct lending. We have a capital markets team because we've been known to go out and buy a lot of debt from different banks and financial institutions during different market dislocations, like during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, or the pandemic. We have a lot of other companies that are set up to really identify investment opportunities to optimize the investments that we make and to asset manage those investments. So again, across our platform, we have close to $8 billion of total assets that we're invested in today. And we've made over 700 investments between credit and equity investments since starting the business.
Got it. And good to know. I guess I got a little mixed up. I said brokers, but you guys are direct lenders, correct?
We're direct lenders. That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So we don't do brokerage, but everything we do, we hold on balance sheet or within different investment vehicles and so forth.
Got it. And definitely in today's day and age where direct lending is becoming more of the norm, agencies being really cut out a little bit, it probably benefits you guys a little bit. So that's awesome. Ravi, give us a few minute background about yourself. I got to know you over the last few weeks. You're such a good man. I love what you're doing. I've always followed Hawkeye stuff, but got to know you personally, and I'm so excited that you're on today. Tell us a little bit about Hawkeye and about Ravi Patel.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Hey, thanks for having us all on, Isaac. It's really fun to be here. You're an excellent host. I've seen some of your work, and it's always fun to be on with friends. Greg and I have known each other, as we were sharing earlier, about 24 years. I was young and naive, 16-year-old at a Choice Hotel conference when Greg shoved me into a limo and took me to a nightclub. So I can vouch he actually was financing 300 hotel deals. That man was making it rain. So
I don't know if I didn't shove you into the limo though. You went willingly, so I think you jumped in
later.
Right.
And it's good to be here with Paul too. Super respected in the space. Yeah. So Isaac, you want me to talk about Journey or just the hotel?
Let's just give the minute synopsis, and then
Cool.
we're going to dive more into your journey shortly.
Sweet, great. So Hawkeye Hotels, we're current day. We've got about 65 assets or so. We span 20 some states. We've got an additional 25 hotels we're passive investors in as well, with other operators throughout the United States. We've also got a fairly sizable public equity portfolio that we've got a team that manages, and then also a private equity portfolio of different investments of about 30 or so companies that span from fashion, film, technology companies, telepharmacy, you name it. So kind of just some things that are fun, interesting, exciting. In terms of the hotels themselves, we do a little bit of everything. We span the gamut all the way as high up as like Curio, Le Méridien, Autograph, down to your traditional Hampton Inns. Yeah, love the space, have a lot of fun being in it. So that's my quick little background.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Okay, Paul, we're going to start with you. Question goes as follows. I was by the ICSC a few years ago, and somebody that I respect in the space tremendously. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, Kyle Matthews of Matthews Real Estate, big retail broker at Marcus before. I think he was at Marcus, maybe Colliers before he started Matthews. And I went over to him and I said, "Hey, Kyle, I'm new in this space. I'm a sales guy. Thank God I'm building at a rapid pace. But at the same time, what advice would you give me?" And he gave me something that I wasn't expecting to hear. He said, everybody wants to be the next millionaire. Everybody wants to be the next successful guy, highly successful guy. The only way to do that is doing what the 1% of the 1% do. If you want to be the 1% of the 1%, you got to do what the 1% of the 1% do. And that might mean getting into the office at 6 a.m. and leaving the office at 12 a.m., whatever that may be. Everybody has a different way of making that happen. My question to you is, you've been in the space for so long. You've done tremendous things. There's thousands, tens of thousands of hotel owners out there. You definitely are amongst the all-stars. What did you do early on? What do you do on a daily basis to get to that place? Is it just pure luck, or you did something special that you could share with us and the audience about how you built up Coury Hospitality?
Wow, that's a long, thoughtful question. So I've always been an interesting study on risk and not risk, right? So I would say I was a risk taker. I bought my first house when I was 19, when I was in college. And I bought a shopping center when I was 23 and bought my first office building at 25 and first hotel at 27. But that, because I didn't know any better. I'm not sure I had any money. I figured out a way to cobble it together. I was a banker like Greg in my day. I knew some creative strategies and knew some things were out there. So I definitely think that you've got to be willing to take risk. There is controlled risk. There's also, looking at everyone on this call, there's some tremendous risk takers and it's paid off. But I think everyone is also very controlled and tries to manage that at a level where they're not going to have one thing that could potentially take them under. You've got to be very creative and figure out whatever you're doing. Greg's got 20 different platforms. Ravi's got multiple platforms. I don't have that kind of challenge like they do, but no matter what you're doing, you got to figure out how to position yourself better than someone else. And whether that's through talent or whether that's through seeing a niche or being more entrepreneurial. But I think for me, I've always felt like when I look at a situation and take the risk, I don't see it as risk. I'm very clear about where I see I'm going to end up. And I've gone through now, I think, 7 down cycles since I started my company. And I'm still trying to figure out whether this tariff falls into a new as a cycle or if it was just a blip on the radar, but yet to be determined. But how you handle yourself and manage through those are also determine how you live to fight another day and handle another cycle.
Got it. So there's always going to be downturns and challenging times. Obviously, we talked about in the last pod, COVID was a time that especially hotel owners probably really freaked out. And obviously not every single deal is going to go as projected, especially when you're syndicating that deal and you have other people's capital in your pocket. But early on in your days, was there crazy early mornings, late nights, a lot of trips, a lot of conferences to get to where you got to?
Yeah. And again, I started my family young. I had 4 kids by the age of 31 and had a business, and I traveled, was working in multiple markets. But again, I never looked at that. It just was me. Like even today, I may get up at 4 a.m. and work out, and I'm on emails and texts, and I may go to bed at 11 o'clock. And these guys probably stay up longer and work harder than I do, but I don't look at it as work. And for me, it excites me, it energizes me. And I think I've never been that guy. My job is 8 to 5 or only Monday through Friday. And again, I promise you, everyone that is an entrepreneur, they kind of look at business the same way, whatever it is. I'm excited every day when I get up to go do what I do.
Love it. Definitely important stuff to like what you do. 100%. I remember when I was looking into deciding what I wanted to do, and somebody said, "Hey, you're a people's person. You're a sales guy. You're an entrepreneur. You do that. You don't do that. You're wasting some talent." So definitely love doing what I do as well. And that's a tremendous message to so many people out there. Anytime somebody comes to me and they say, "Isaac, hey, what should I do? What should I pursue?" I said, first, there's really 2 buckets over here. Are you an operations guy or are you a sales guy? Some people are hybrids. It's extremely important to identify what you're good at and what you're going to enjoy. Greg, let's go to you. I want to talk about the 1% of the 1%, how you built up literally a masterpiece. I also want maybe at the end to you address this point. I'm a big believer in compound interest. So are all you guys, right? So is the world. And early on in my career, I was trying to leverage my connections by selling them multiple items. And somebody told me, hey, Isaac, stick to cost egg and let that domino effect. And it really has. I totally stopped trying to sell other stuff. You guys have built out a hotel masterpiece. You started Peachtree Credit and you're involved in other stuff as well. I'm not challenging that. I'm asking you, do you feel that that challenges you? Is that a challenge or there's a way to do it? You just got to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge, and I'll talk more about it. I mean, I think just going back to being, the 1% of the 1%, like y'all said, I think Paul said it very well. And Isaac, you said the same thing. You got to really love what you do, because when you're starting a business, when you're being an entrepreneur, because, going back to when I was a teenager, I always had different businesses. Some of them were probably not the most ethical businesses, but some of them were. And you really had to be passionate about what you're doing on a daily basis, because nothing ever goes according to plan. So unfortunately, if you're in the hotel business, if you're in any business, there's always challenges. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're dealing with just unknown challenges that are going to pop up. If it's COVID, if it's the great financial crisis, if it's the current dislocated debt market you're dealing with, or what's happening with higher interest rates for longer and inflation and everything else, you're always dealing with these challenges that no one really necessarily saw on the front end. You're going to have to navigate through these challenges and be able to pivot accordingly. And if you don't love what you do, you're going to get burned out very quickly. And that's one reason why I think I've been able to sustain through the last 18 years with our business being Peachtree, and even through other things I've done in the past, is when I'm truly passionate about it, I'm going to grind through those challenges. I'm going to be able to pivot and be able to go through those late nights, work the additional hours, and not get caught up in the challenges that exist. I'm going to see those challenges as opportunities, and it's being able to see through to the other side is what make individuals great. It's what makes businesses great, because everyone has a plan in place. But fortunately, like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a great plan until they get punched in the mouth, and then being able to get back up on your feet and being able to pivot. That's what really makes, I think, the 1% the 1%. But there's no question, like when you look across our business, we have grown our business. Initially, we went out, bought a portfolio of hotel assets. My background was banking, as we talked about. So credit was a very natural evolution back in 2009, 2010, during the great financial crisis. We quickly went up and started buying debt, not only against hotel assets, but against all commercial real estate assets. So that's when we actually started making investments outside the hotel industry as a platform, is back in 2010. And we use that springing board to continue to make more investments over time. If it was doing direct lending or buying more loans against, it's not only hotel assets, but all commercial real estate assets. And we've been successful at adding other businesses over time. If it's our C-PACE lending business that had a huge non-hotel investment focus, because we're financing through C-PACE, commercial property, sus clean energy, we're financing all commercial real estate property types. If it was, we started a business because we bought up all these busted subdivision loans back during the great financial crisis. That business was the entree into us actually going in and starting another business that went out and started buying up land that we would entitle in subdivisions that became basically land lots that we'd sell to the public home builders or groups that are doing build to rent. So we started that evolution over the last 10 years. When you look at our platform, really over the last 15 years, going back to when we were buying debt, getting into other segments of commercial real estate, there's no question it's a challenge, because we are known for the hotel space. We have a lot of resources within the hospitality industry, but we've done, I think, a really good job growing in some of these other property types, asset types, because we own some other businesses that are outside real estate as well.
And you don't feel dealing with the credit side of the business, let's focus on that, hampers your ability to focus on buying more hospitality assets and building up equity that way?
Not really, because we have separate teams that run those businesses. So one thing we did very early on in the business is we set up different leaders. We have a team that is purely focused on the credit side, doing the direct lending. We have a portfolio management team that's handling the funds that are behind these credit funds that we have, that we're deploying the capital out of. And the same goes for the equity side of the business. We have a different team that's focusing on acquiring hotel assets. We have another team that's focusing on acquiring like multifamily assets.
Got
And
it.
we've done a fair amount of JVs. Like we owned several like IOS type properties back. We still own one property that's IOS right now that we're selling out of. But outside of that, we've done several of those properties over time through a JV, and we've done different partnerships like that, grow into some other asset types or property types as well. So we tend to try to find an operating partner that we'll bring into the platform to run those businesses, or we'll end up JVing with another organization that we feel like is best in class.
Very, very cool. And that's really gonna lead me into my next question. Ravi, I want you to address, and guys feel free afterwards to jump in. So first of all, Ravi, I know so many guys out there, and you're an extremely hard worker, an extremely, extremely hard worker. You built up a beautiful enterprise. And a few wise men have told me over the years that the people that are successful and can grow their business are the people that don't micromanage, and they trust their guys, and they're able to delegate at a high level, which gives them the ability to go do and branch out. And like Greg said, obviously having somebody in really every single corner. So give us a little bit of what you did early on to build up your enterprise, how and your take on the micromanaging, let's call it the micromanaging business, right? There's so many people out there that can't let go. We talked about in an earlier podcast very, very briefly, maybe expound on that, because there's no way to own 65 hotels and counting by micromanaging. And obviously at the same time, you got to make sure everything's done your way. So really fill us in how that hybrid works.
Yeah, absolutely. And Isaac, I think your questions dovetail pretty nicely on the 1% of the 1% and not micromanaging as well. I'm going to split the answer into really two parts. It's like first half of life, second half of life, if you want to look at it that way. When I first got into this business, I'm a big believer in always trying to find a way to turn your weakness into your strength. And that time I was, like I said, I met Greg when I was 16 years old. I got in the industry really, really young, and I was inexperienced. I was young, but I had unbound, unlimited energy at that point. And so a few key tenets I found to get to that 1% of the 1% were build something incredible, which we'll get to in the journey, be a great salesman, and to outwork everybody around me. Like if you can work that hard and you can outwork everybody, and when you're in your early 20s in this business, you can do that. I could be out with Greg until all hours of the night, and the next morning be on any call that I needed to be on. But if you transition into, I'll be 40 this year, I'm married, I got two beautiful kids, and life is very different now, right? So if you think about what is the 1% of the 1% now, it's very different. Yes, I'm still working hard and I'm fired up and I'm passionate, but recovery is the new word that is in my arsenal now. So I spend a lot of time, Isaac, nowadays thinking through how can I be in peak mental and physical shape and performance. And that's just become imperative to me now. So I do spend a lot of time on personal development. So I'm in my third year of this advanced leadership program called the Dragon's Gap. There's the Stegan Academy. And we work a lot on emotional, physical, mental well-being. And when you're at the best that you can be, you can really transcend that to everybody around you for them to be the best that they can be as well. If you look at like first half of life, second half of life, like at this point, if recovery and balance and stability, like if you think about turn your weakness into your strength, someone might say my weakness is I'm very stable now. I have to be at home a lot more. But that's my strength now. Like from that stability comes like this sense of power that you have. And I can empower the people around me. I can mentor, coach, and develop all of the units that we have to our business now. And really the way I look at it, I know Greg really well and I know his business. And I think we have some similarities in like he has divisional presidents and people who they're their own president of these different sectors. Like they run it. Yeah, they're coming to me with high level things that they might need from me, but there's a lot of confidence, faith, empowerment, and trust that I put into my team, and they deliver day in and day out for our business. And especially as you think about just some of the really tough times we've had in our industry through the GFC and COVID and like what we're going through now, man, those are great times to grow. If you can develop through those times, you can conquer anything. So that's kind of how I look at those two questions and answering that.
I love that. I love that. And I always love to give. If you go through my podcast, you'll see I love basketball more than anything. I know the classic sport in the US is football. I'm a big basketball guy and I love giving basketball analogies. You could have a Kevin Durant out there, but Kevin Durant, no matter which way you cut it, he's not a leader. A LeBron James is a leader. There's certain guys that are leaders by nature. And to build that successful company, and like what you said, just the way you talk and our conversations that we've had, you have those leadership capabilities and you could grow when you do that. Kevin Durant could score 30 at ease, right? Does he make his teammates better? I don't know. I'm not a big believer in that. I think that there's a lot of other players that might not be as good as him, make the players around them better. And when you make your players around you better, you're going to win championships. I'm a big believer if Durant never went to the 73-9 Warriors, he never would have won a championship. That's my belief. I don't know if you guys remember, but the 2003 and 2004 Pistons with no superstars, each guy made each other better. Chauncey Billups made everybody better, and they had chemistry. That's really when you can grow into a big shop. Paul, so you're in the boutique space. You don't have as many people in the boutique hospitality arena as you have in the classic regular Hampton Inns and everything else that we see out there. What drove you to do that? Was that a mistake? Was that on purpose? Did you start with the classic regular Holiday Inns? Give us a little bit of a background.
Well, but first I want to make a reference to Kevin Durant. The 2012 Thunder team had Durant when they went to the finals last time. They had Durant, Kevin Harden, who was a number 6 guy, and they had Westbrook. And Westbrook now makes $3 million a year. Harden makes $30 million a year, and Durant makes $44 million a year. Is that interesting? That
That's
when you talk about
interesting.
talents, leadership, but that's a huge gap. And those 3 guys at the time, they were all, Westbrook was actually kind of the number 1 guy.
But by the way, I'm going to chime in over here. I'm a big believer that one of the reasons why they didn't win and one of the reasons why they ended up losing down to the Warriors when they were up 3-1 is because they didn't have that leadership mentality. They just didn't.
Right, right, right.
Westbrook was a leader, but Westbrook used to snap in a heartbeat.
Yeah, oh yeah. When I started my company, a family ended up out of Chicago finding me because of my banking background, and they had hotels and golf courses around the country. And in fact, a lot of them were purchased during the Depression, and you could almost call him a slumlord, but he had an incredible eye for locations like the Royal Palms, in Arizona was one of them. And it was just this little motor lodge and with the golf course. And so they had properties very similar to that in really great locations. So very quickly, I started looking at these little nuanced properties thinking, wow, I could do this, I could do that. And I've always loved design and doing things. But the first one I did myself was actually an abandoned 1920s building that someone had given to the Catholic Church of all people as a contribution. They were like, what do we do with it? So we hired Steve Rushmore back when he was still showing up doing feasibility studies with HBS. And he said, you should do a boutique hotel here. And we're like, what's a boutique hotel? And this is in the mid 90s, right? And so Kempton was the only one really doing that. I think Ian Schrager was kind of doing his thing in big markets. And so we did ours and it had a restaurant and we curated it and we wanted it to be special. And the Bellagio opened and I was using that as my inspiration for design. I was spending $5. He was spending $50 million on a room. That's kind of how we stumbled into that. But I am that guy. It's much easier for me to operate that type property because that's my DNA. That's my taste. That's my perfection for detail. I probably, if you said to me, and we just opened our first AC in Bentonville with Walmart, and it's a spectacular property. But most limited services I struggle with because they're not unique and they don't have that panache to them.
Very, very cool. No, I'm intrigued by this space. I'm truly intrigued. I have another client of mine that's doing boutique stuff now. He's starting out, and it's cool stuff.
What we've done is we operate about 55 different food and beverage outlets now, and each one of those try to kind of come up with their own branding and design. Sometimes we get some help, but for the most part, we do. And that's really fun. It really challenges you. And when I go out, I've been to dinner with Greg before. I haven't been to dinner with Ravi, but and I go in a restaurant, everything, I'm looking at everything, how, the plate, the silver, the mirrors, the bathroom, the soap, and the scent, what's the lighting. It's almost a compulsiveness, but I love it. And my wife's equally as bad. And so it's kind of this contest now when we go out. We're just analyzing, and my iPad and phone is full of pictures of art, design, furniture.
What type of guests do you have?
That's an interesting question. We have a lot of autographs, and the guest is really an interesting guest because I'm going to use that kind of as a typical guest for this world. A lot of business travelers in the weekday, but then in the weekends, it blurs into what they used to call bleisure or leisure or, a lot of social. And if it's the right property with the right activation of food and beverage, it really doesn't have those soft days as much. Maybe a Sunday or something like that, but we really focus heavily on all that as the way to draw people in. And so the notion is that it's not a hotel restaurant, it's a community spot that people are going to because you've got music there. One of them has a jazz club in the basement. We've got a Michael Feinstein cabaret club and one in Carmel, Indiana, of all places, right? But it adds a very unique, nuance to the property and brings people in.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think you guys do a wonderful job. I've been to the Carmichael and Carmel, and even with our properties, I mean, I'll be totally honest. I mean, we've got stuff on both sides of the spectrum where we got a restaurant and one hotel that it was not built to be catered to the community and to outside guests. And you see that in the performance. And so we've had to migrate more to, exactly what Paul's talking about, a highly inventive concept where we're bringing in consultants who have achieved mastery at whatever it might be. If it's a pizza joint we're doing, we brought in Anthony Falco, who did Roberta's in Brooklyn, to come open it. Renee Ortiz to open, who did Laundrette in Austin, to come do our Mexican outlet. But what I get at with that is that can create a concept that's going to drive a lot of traffic. And that can be make or break, especially for these high-end properties. So I think about like our Curio collection and the amount of time, energy, effort we spent on those. We've got 4 restaurant concepts in there, and the restaurant concepts, the bar, the speakeasy, do almost as much revenue as the rooms. You can totally make or break your P&L on that upper echelon of an asset based on how much thought and energy you put into the F&B. So, I definitely applaud you for what you do, Paul.
Robbie, so Robbie, on that one you've got with 4 units, the thing about that, if you look at your spend per occupied room, it's probably off the charts. And when you take those numbers to bankers and all that on a pro forma, they're like, no way. But then when you do it, they're like, I'm going to cut that in a third. They're not even going to give you half, right? But then when you do it, people probably think you're not being legit with them when you tell them how much you're doing, right? But it's
who's going to believe that? Yeah, and like it's hard to quantify what that's doing to your rooms too, right? You're driving so much more into your 300 units and into your property as well. So yeah, I totally agree, Paul.
Very cool. Very cool. Greg, what do you have to say to us?
Yeah, no, that's Paul does an incredible job. So like I've been to, I think it's Hotel Vin in Grapevine, right? Is that? Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible asset. But I think, as Paul mentioned, I think there is a huge movement towards these hotels that have created this incredible ecosystem just from an experience perspective. So people that are traveling, if it's for business reasons, as Paul mentioned, leisure reasons. I mean, you see it at a lot of different hotels, like, because I spent a lot of time in like Austin, Texas, for instance, and like the hotel views the proper hotel there. I mean, it really crushes that market from a performance perspective. It's just, you look at what they've created in that ecosystem there with the restaurants, the bars. They have multiple restaurants in there. They have the right setup for like 2 different bars and so forth. And it just creates that stickiness of guests wanting to stay there, and it allows them to get a premium from what they're charging the guests on an average daily rate perspective. And haven't seen their P&Ls, but I got to imagine they're super profitable just across the board because they're always busy. And the same goes for all of Paul's hotels, and we've seen the same impact when we can execute correctly on the F&B side for these, lifestyle type hotels. But with that said, I mean, just going back to your original comment about winning championships in the NBA and so forth, and Kevin Durant and so forth, it's really, I think, when you look at businesses in general, it's all about trust. I mean, I think leadership is really about creating trust across the platform. If you're really going to scale up a business, it's one thing when you start a business and it's just yourself, it's you plus maybe 1 or 2 partners or 3 or 4 people. It's much easier to operate, but it's easier to get that trust. But as you grow a business, to gain that trust and maintain that trust, that's what really allows you to thrive when you go through a chaotic moment. If it's the pandemic, for instance, where all of a sudden you're having to quickly make decisions. In some cases, you're shutting down properties or you're cutting staff and so forth. If you have the correct trust and you've been able to build that up, you're going to be able to make those pivots. If it's playing defense at the right time, if it's playing offense, going back to the sport analogy, you're going to be a lot more successful because the team is going to have that trust in you when you're making those pivots, and they're going to continue to work just as hard, if not harder, to be successful.
100%, 100%.
Greg, we need some slam dunk deals. I mean, is right?
That's right. We do need slam dunk deals in a market where there's really no slam dunk deals right now.
Give me a slam dunk. I want one.
Right.
You guys thought
we got to go back to 2009, Paul. That's where all the slam dunk deals were.
But the funny part is back in 2009, 10, 11, there was all these deals that were for the taking and no one saw it as a slam dunk deal even back then. When they exist, nobody really capitalizes as much on it. And I think it's coming, but who knows? So
there used to be a bumper sticker in Texas and Oklahoma back after the oil bust in the early 90s. And it said, "Dear God, give me one more high run and I promise not to screw it up." Something to that effect, right? Give me high prices of oil.
It's funny, like during the pandemic, I thought, you know what, we bought like 180 loans. We had a lot of success buying up a lot of loans, and that trade worked out super well for us. And that was across all commercial real estate assets, mostly hotel assets, because hotels were one of the most disrupted asset classes. So you had a lot of banks selling loans at discounts. But then you saw some assets, we bought 19 hotel assets in the middle of COVID, but it wasn't as much as we expected because during the GFC, you had so much for the taking and we just didn't see as many opportunities during COVID. And even in the last couple of years with higher interest rates, it's been hard to find those slam dunk deals, as you're mentioning. And I think it's, hopefully it's coming at some point. Who knows?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Greg, we're going to start with you. We're nearing the end of the show. I'm going to give a shout out to a man I think that I met him at the Hunter Conference. His name is Aman Dosani. So I'm talking to Aman by the Hunter Conference, and your name comes up, and he says, Greg is such a fun guy, and he loves mentoring others. And that's really what I want to end the show with. You guys, all three of you guys, I'm of the belief if you would hang up your jersey today, you'd be just fine. Right? So there's something that's keeping you going. There's something, obviously, you got to have purpose. And like Paul talked about earlier, he loves what he does, and that's what keeps him going. In a world where you can hang up your jersey and just go to Italy and go to the Maldives and just relax, you know what I mean? Mentoring folks, and that's what Aman was referring to, and just really mentoring the next generation about how to do it. Tell us about that mentorship mentality that you have and what you do, I guess, even on a weekly, monthly basis to give back to the new guys. Fill us in.
Yeah. I think from a standpoint of just Peachtree, I love hiring younger people, watching them grow in our system and get elevated and take on a more senior role over time. And seeing that, just progression for their professional careers. So I'm a big believer in, developing out talent internally. And that's something we've done very successfully when you look across the roster of people that are on our team today and allowing them not only to have financial success along the way, but really have that professional success. I don't do this for the money, and it's easy to say that, but I really don't do this for the money. I actually have more excitement watching other people on our team have success. And that's a big part of really what we've built here at Peachtree as a company, but also like helping young people that are coming in our industry and helping them have success and trying to mentor them, in some capacity, or even helping capitalize them. We financed a lot of doing JVs or even capitalizing them in other capacities. We've done a lot of that over time. At one point we were in the same, I was in their same shoes, right? Like we were young, we were in our 20s and just getting in the business, and someone gave us that opportunity. I'm a big believer giving other people that opportunity so that they can grow professionally, and hopefully it changes their lives in a positive way.
Do you ever think that they could be competitors of yours and they could come back to bite you?
Yeah, it's competition, I think, is healthy. I'm not afraid of competition. So, I hope they become competitors because it's going to push us to be better as well to a certain degree. And within business, which is a little bit different than, maybe sports, like in sports, you want to continue to win championships, and we want to continue to win championships. But I'm a big believer you can actually have multiple winners, right? Like everyone on this call right now is a winner, and our business, right? When you look at the hotel business, you look at what everyone does, they're top in class, and everyone's had success. And we want to see that everyone can have success. The reality is some people there's going to be failure along the way. Let's face reality. We're successful, or at least we feel like we've been successful in general. It doesn't mean we're successful in everything we do. We are very transactional. We've had our failures, we learn from it, and we continue to pivot and continue to have success hopefully afterwards and not repeat those mistakes. But the point is we want to see that our competitors, technically, we want to see them that they're successful because we transact between each other as well too. So I mean, it's healthy for the system to have multiple winners, to have multiple groups that are successful. You don't want to see people fail, because if you have a bunch of failures within our business, it's only going to make it more challenging for all of us to be able to have sustainable businesses as well.
I love that. Competition makes you stronger. That's huge. That's a huge motto by me. A lot of people out there. I love that, and really helping people out. Wow. And I think you told me like you flew down there to be with the young guys and really just be there, teach them the ropes, be there, questions, answers, whatever it may be. So that's really incredible. I love that. Wow. Ravi, fill us in a little bit about mentorship. Obviously, people probably call you for advice. You might have cousins, friends, whoever it may be. You give a lot of time to that. And what advice do you give folks? Obviously, it's going to vary, but just in general, stuff that you've done.
Isaac, that's definitely something that's pretty near and dear to me. I mean, I'm a pretty big believer in always having a mentor and being a mentor. I don't care how old I am. I'm always going to want mentors, whether in whatever facet of life that I'm in, that I'm trying to get growth at. And at the same time, having individuals that I can mentor as well. And I think one of the most important components I've found just to mentorship in general is having a really systematic and frequent feedback loop. And we've done a really nice job of designing that within our company. From a departmental level, we run Traction EOS, where there's L10s every department, every week. And then on an individual level, when we've got every department leader has one-on-ones that are pretty structured. And the ones that I do, Isaac, personally, everyone can run them how they want, but within the company and a lot of times outside of it, to people I mentor as well, it's like, you start with like, how are you? How's your head? How's your heart? And like just really getting personal and vulnerable with people. And I think that's what really cracks people open and allows them to feel like they're seen and they're heard. I think it's just such an important part of this industry. And even, like I'll use Greg as an example too. Like I've known Greg for a long time. And if I ever have something that is weighing heavy or I need help on something, like Greg and I have peeled off at so many conferences just to have a one-on-one and just to hang out. Mitch Patel, I remember I was going through something pretty heavy once and I was like, hey man, can you do dinner tonight? Of course. And we had a beautiful 3-4 hour conversation around whatever it was that was on my mind. And so it's a very giving industry in that way. And I find that to be something that's really fulfilling about industry. And one thing that Greg said that resonates with me as well, I don't look at it at all like if someone's winning, I'm winning. If there's someone that's in my orbit or my circle and they're winning, I feel like I'm winning, and that feels good to both parties. So thanks for bringing up the mentorship piece, but that's a little bit about how I think about it.
I love that. I really do. And just to go back to something that Greg said and you really alluded to as well, building up other people, it's aside from the fact that it's just a good thing to do, it makes us better people, but you can look back like, hey, I really made that guy. I really helped him. And that gives you confidence. And it's an amazing feeling. That's something that talked to me a lot. And I'm sure the audience will appreciate that. That's huge. People look at competition the whole time as like the enemy. You find deck guys, title guys. It's like, it's a real war out there, right? And you can be friends. I go to conferences, I meet competitors, we talk, we run ideas past each other all the time. So I love that. Paul, mentorship, is that something you're involved in? Do you appreciate that? Listen.
Well, I've always tried to give back through both organizations and obviously with people that I'm around in my life. But where I'm at now, I mean, I plan on being 95-year-old working someone, a big pain in the ass to somebody, but it's how you treat people. It's how you, still saying, it's how you make them feel, making them feel you listen to them. I've been saying this a lot lately. It's the golden rule, right? We've heard that all of our lives. There's 10 different ways you can say it. But even now more than ever in our company, we talk about culture and we talk about starts with you and the people you interact with. I think we did learn a lot after COVID about relationships and how important they were. But I would say that mentorship's taken on a little bit different meaning to me. I used to think of that as very specific. I'm intrigued by this person. I want to help that person. I'm glad to visit with you. Now I look at it a lot more. It's more dispersed, and everyone I engage with now, I really want to come away. I want to know who they are. I want to know something about them, and it's real, right? There's nothing I benefit off of it, but they are the ones that they leave that and they feel like someone heard me. Then all of a sudden you've got their respect and you've taught them how to engage with someone else. So I kind of started to look at it a little differently. It's interesting. It was a good question.
I love that. I like that take. Good stuff, guys. This was awesome. We're going to end the show with 20 seconds of pop. A really one or two sentences, a one or two liner to a newbie investor getting into the space right now, what it really comes down to. Ravi, take it away. What does it boil down to?
You know what? I'm going to boil it down to just stay curious, right? Like that's what keeps things interesting. It's what keeps things fun. Like if you feel like you're gaining knowledge and you're learning and you're staying really curious, I think that that's very rewarding. So I think that's how I'd end it, Isaac, is just stay hungry, stay curious.
Love it. Love it. Greg, a quick one-liner of what it really boils down to.
Yeah, it's all about resiliency because you're going to just face a lot of challenges. I mean, there's no question. If you do it correctly, you're going to hopefully have a lot of success. I mean, success isn't guaranteed, but you got to be resilient. And if you're resilient, especially if you're investing in real estate, investing in hotels, there's going to be maybe bad timing, but if you can sustain through it, you're going to have success long term.
Love it. Paul?
Mine would be yourself. Everybody else is taken, unless you can be Greg Friedman. That's the only caveat.
I don't know about that. I was thinking about being you, Paul. It would be a lot more fun. So
it's a good one. People all the time. I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. Everybody has unique abilities and a lot of strengths to do a lot of good things out there. Guys, this was incredible. I'm really, really thankful to you guys for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in to another fabulous episode of Stage Debate with Cossack Isaac. This was a phenomenal episode. Obviously, you saw for yourselves that to get to the top, you guys got to put in the hard work. And these folks, Greg, Paul, Ravi, have really put in that work, and they continue to do that and try to give back to the community and to the new generation of real estate investors and hotel investors. So fabulous episode. Thank you guys. And thank you to our sponsors. If you would like to be on a episode or sponsor an episode, partner up, or just talk cost egg and strategize, definitely reach out to me. I'm the most active on LinkedIn, so reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll be sure to respond to you. Have a wonderful day and subscribe to our channels to be notified when all episodes drop. And stay tuned for future ones because there's a lot of good ones coming. So be well, have yourself a wonderful day, and see you on the next pod.